Hey everyone, in this video I wanted to talk about the differences between A camera and B camera and what those may look like when you're working on a feature film or television show. And all of this comes from my own personal experience having worked both positions, both A camera and B camera. And some of my recent credits include working A camera for the LA unit of Woman of the Hour. I also did B camera for a new Netflix TV show with Tom Segura, in which the A camera operator is someone named Matt Bell, who also worked on Blackbird, which is a great Apple TV show. I've also done A camera for Bill Burr's feature film, his directorial debut called Old Dads. And prior to that, I did B camera for a NBC TV show called The Thing About Pam. And the A camera operator for that was Jessica Clark Nash. So I sat down and I really reflected on my prior experience on some of those productions and wanted to make a video about some of the differences that you might encounter, whether you're A camera or B camera. The key difference between A camera and B camera is that the A camera will be shooting 99% of the time and almost never be standing down. An A camera operator is of course involved in every aspect of making the shot happen, which includes the blocking rehearsal, perhaps giving their input, receiving orders from the director and the cinematographer, and coordinating with all the departments, making the camera rehearsals, and of course executing the actual shot. When it's strictly an A camera shot, then of course that means that B camera is standing down, which could last anywhere from one setup within an entire scene or could last the whole day, or sometimes B camera may not even play that day.
2,000 years later.
This means that A camera operators are typically on without really any breaks in between setups, which makes for a fast-paced day filled with creative challenges. And with that said, B camera operators of course also work very hard and could be just as involved as the A camera. In fact, oftentimes directors and producers will think, well, we have two cameras and we're paying for both cameras and we're paying for both camera teams, so we might as well shoot two cameras, even when it's less than ideal to do so.
What?
However, my point is that if one of the cameras is going to stand down, oftentimes it's going to be B camera. But this downtime actually lends itself to a valuable learning opportunity for the operator. B camera operators can observe the A camera operator in action and maybe pick up on some of the insights and techniques in their interactions with the actors and the other crew members. And additionally, if you're standing down, then you can kind of position yourself a little bit closer to the monitors and the director and the cinematographer and be able to pick up on some of the conversations that they're having about the execution of the shot, or maybe notes that they're going to give when they call cut. And all of this sort of stuff can enhance your understanding of the visual language of that project and just your understanding of the project in general. So that was number one. Number two is that B camera sometimes has to make some small sacrifices, maybe get a little more resourceful or creative or scrappy. So when you're just starting out in the narrative world as a camera operator, you're doing it through lower budget projects. And if it's a two camera shoot, then typically B camera will get a little bit less resources than A camera. And this could be, maybe A camera has a dolly, B camera doesn't. A camera has obviously a first AC and a second AC, but B camera, may only get a first. So while you might not have all the same tools, all the same support as A camera, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. If anything, it's a really great opportunity to learn how to measure twice and cut once. And by that, I mean looking through a viewfinder, really picking your frames, looking through your Artemis app or whatever you have on your phone, and being able to be decisive about the support that you'll need and the tools that you need in order to get the shot that you want. And of course, these are things that you want to be implementing, whether you're the A camera or B camera or C camera or whatever. It's just when you have less of those things, I guess it teaches you how to be a little bit more precise and a little bit more decisive with what you do have. Number 3, B camera tends to have the longer lens or the tighter frame. Your typical setup is A camera goes on a wider lens and gets a wide shot or a wider shot, and B camera goes on a longer lens and gets a tighter shot. Now let's say, for example, that we have a shot of an actor getting up out of a chair quickly. If A camera's on a 35mm, then tilting up is rather easy. But if B camera is on 150mm, then tilting up and making sure that you're not cutting off the actor's head or, giving proper headroom when you land and everything, now all of a sudden becomes a little bit more challenging. And if you're shooting two sizes of the same angle and you're on B camera with a longer lens, then typically you're going to be asked to be shooting the tighter eye line or to be shooting on the inside. And with that, you'll have to be almost pressed up against A camera in a lot of cases, or typically what this means is that you're going to operate from the opposite side of the camera or the dumb side of the camera, or on, a less than ideal position that you usually would be shooting in. It's often a bit of a dance between the two cameras and the actors if you're shooting an over the shoulder, for example, and you'll have to press up against one another, maybe remove the matte box because you see it in A camera's angle, or maybe scooch the camera back or scooch the camera forward, or scooch the actor who is providing the shoulder a little bit more to the left or a little bit more to the right, and just a bit of a dance to get both angles to look really good and to accommodate for both cameras. And I feel like experiencing these things as the B camera operator really teaches you and prepares you to bump up to be an A camera operator on a multicam show, because you kind of witness the same things over and over again, so you know what to look out for and what to consider and what you need to do to accommodate everybody in the room in order for everyone to do their job as efficient as possible. At number 4, we have something that you will inevitably experience as a camera operator in your career, and that's the director of photography as the A camera operator and you as the B camera. Eventually, you'll find yourself on a job where the director of photography is the A camera operator and you've been hired to be the B camera operator, but not every single scene or every single setup requires two cameras, and that frees up the cinematographer to direct the photography behind the monitor and leaving you to be the main operator for most of the show. And in this case, B camera can potentially work more than A camera because of how useful it is to have you operating B camera while the director of photography is a little bit more freed up to focus on their lighting. It's obviously not done to prevent you from getting the A camera credit. It's just something that happens naturally because it makes sense, and because the director of photography is going to be on A camera with the widest lens because they're lighting for the entire space and not just B camera's close up. And I think all of this is a really great opportunity that one can embrace, because it's a really great way of gaining experience as the lead camera operator on a multicam production without necessarily having some of that pressure or having some of the responsibility quite yet. And it really can prepare you and does prepare you for being a camera operator in the future. And last but not least, at number 5, whether you're A camera or you're B camera, the goal should always be synchronicity. If you're the A camera operator, then you have to truly believe that every single camera, every single angle, every single person operating those cameras is important, and it's not just all about your shot, or that it's not all about you being the A camera operator. The number one goal should always be to meet the director and the cinematographer's vision for the project, and to support one another, and to be like the A camera operators that I've been fortunate enough to work with, and set the tone for a really great working relationship with one another. So that's it for today's video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here because I'm running out of light. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the 5 differences between A camera or B camera, Just a bit of some of the things I've learned along the way. And if you have your own things that you want to share in terms of the differences or lessons that you've learned on your productions, feel free to leave a comment below. And thanks for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.